Welcome to the Business of Style podcast with me, your host, Louisa Gabriel. I'm a personal stylist and image strategist who grew a successful six-figure business, and now I'm educating and empowering other personal stylists and image professionals just like you to do the same. So please keep listening to hear the lessons I've learned and the strategies I've used along the way that are guaranteed to take your personal styling career from side hustle to six figures too. Welcome everyone to the latest episode of the Business of Style, the podcast where we talk about the realities of building and growing a successful personal styling and image consulting business. Today, I want to share something a little more personal and give you a little bit insight into some of the mistakes I made in the beginning when I was just starting my personal styling business. When people talk about starting their styling business, the focus is often on the exciting parts, the finding the clients, the creating the services, the building the website, developing that brand and doing the work you love. And I know that's exactly where my mind was when I first started out. And what doesn't get discussed nearly enough are the actual business foundations that protect you and your business behind the scenes. So, when I started my own styling business, there were several things that I either overlooked completely or I didn't prioritize as highly as I should have. And thankfully, none of these mistakes caused major problems for me personally. But looking back, I can see how easily they could have. So, in today's episode, I'm sharing 3 things that I overlooked when starting my personal styling business that could have become very costly mistakes. So, if you're a new stylist, or even if you've been in business for a while, this episode might help you to identify a few gaps in your business that really need your attention now. So, let's dive into it. All right, I'm going to start with the big one: not having proper client contracts. When I first started working with clients, I was so focused on providing this great experience that I didn't put enough thought into contracts. In fact, I don't even think for many months that I even thought about contracts at all. I mean, I kind of knew that they were important and that it is part of your business that you do need to have these legal documents and these legal protections. But if I'm honest, it was one of those things where I'm like, I'll just deal with it later. Let's focus on getting the clients in and getting my business up and running before I actually have to deal with those things. And after all, styling is really a relationship based business, right? So you're helping people to look and feel their best. And it doesn't always feel like it's corporate, it doesn't feel like it's this formal business sometimes. So you're not necessarily clued in or thinking about those important business tasks that you do have to get to. But the problem is that good intentions don't actually prevent misunderstandings and don't protect you. So a contract is necessary. It's not there because you expect clients to cause a problem at all. It's there to make sure that both parties understand exactly what is being provided and what is being agreed. Without a contract, there are so many questions that can arise, like how many hours are going to be included in this service? What happens if the client cancels the appointment? Are the payments refundable if they're not happy with the work? What if the client doesn't complete their part of the process? What happens if a session runs over time, if it's a set number of hours you're including? Are shopping purchases included or do they cost extra? Without having clear documentation in the form of a contract, you're going to be relying on memory and you're going to have a client who is making assumptions. Assumptions can actually become a very expensive for business owners. I've seen so many stylists that spend countless hours providing additional work because the scope of their service wasn't clearly defined. And I can tell you for a fact that this happened to me several times when I first started working as a stylist. I've seen disputes over refunds because there wasn't that contract and it wasn't very clear what the refund policy was. I've seen situations where clients expect far more than the stylist ever intended to deliver. A professional contract protects both parties and it establishes clear expectations from the beginning of the professional relationship. And it also immediately positions you as a serious business owner, and people are less likely to try and take advantage of that. One of the biggest mindset shifts that happens when you start charging premium rates is recognizing that you're not simply offering fashion advice, you are running a professional service business. And professional service businesses, you know what? They use contracts. So if you're listening today and you're still sending clients an email just outlining things instead of a proper legal agreement, then this is something that is worth addressing and something you should be doing sooner rather than later. All right. Mistake number 2 of mine was not thinking about insurance early enough. I know what some of you are thinking. Insurance is not exactly the most exciting topic, and it might actually cause many of you to decide to go listen to another podcast. But while it's not exciting, it is necessary. And I know for me personally, it was definitely one of the last things on my mind when I was starting and growing my business. It was definitely one of the last things that I wanted to spend money on when I was first starting out. My focus was putting the money into building my website and those marketing materials so I could actually find new clients. And I'm sure if you've already started your business, that's where your focus is too, attracting clients and generating revenue. Insurance felt to me like something that I could deal with it later. But here's what I learned. You don't need insurance because you're expecting something to go wrong. You need it because sometimes things just do go wrong. Think about it. As stylists, we're often working in public places, retail environments. We go into client homes. Maybe we go to event venues and offices and other locations. And that introduces a level of risk to our business and what we do. Imagine a scenario where, let's say, a client trips during a styling session and injures themselves, or you accidentally knock over a vase or damage a client's property when you're at their home. Maybe a client claims that your advice caused them some kind of financial loss, or some kind of equipment is damaged or stolen, or there's an accident that occurs while you're working. Even if a claim is completely unfounded, dealing with legal issues can be incredibly expensive and stressful. And having insurance helps protect both your business and your personal finances. And that's a very important thing to consider, especially if you have started your business and you are a sole proprietor, a sole trader, you haven't gone down the limited company route yet. If something happens and someone makes a claim, it's going to be against your own personal finances, not against business finances. So having that insurance gives you that level of protection just in case, okay? Not that you're anticipating problems, but you understand that issues can arise, accidents can happen. One lawsuit or one claim could potentially cost you far more than years of insurance premium. So it's definitely worth the money. And what many stylists don't realize is that as soon as money changes hands, okay, this becomes a real business with real business consequences. And that business really needs protection. So while I see new stylists investing in their logos, their websites, their business cards, their marketing materials, all before insurance, just like I did when I was first starting, while these things are very important, protecting the business that you have worked so hard to build should be equally as high on the priority list, if not higher. So, insurance, it may not help you gain clients directly, but you know what? It can help ensure that one unexpected situation doesn't threaten the future of your business. So, if you haven't looked at your insurance yet, now is definitely the time. All right. The third mistake, and by no means is this the final mistake, but these are just the three we're talking about today. I made many, many more, that's for sure. But the third mistake is one that I feel many entrepreneurs make. I'm definitely not alone. And it has the potential to become incredibly costly. It didn't for me. I was very, very lucky and it was pure luck, but it could have actually cost me my business. Mistake number three is not checking whether my business name was actually available. When you're starting a business, choosing a name is often an exciting part of the process. Maybe you've already thought of a name and maybe you've had an idea for years and you're finally getting to actually put it out there and create that business and that brand around that name. You finally have that idea that feels right. So you start creating your branding, you design your logo, you secure a domain name, and you start building those social media accounts around that name, building that brand. But before you get too attached to a name, you need to make sure someone else doesn't already own it. Many new business owners assume that if they can't find another stylist using the same name on Instagram, well, then it's safe, right? And they can actually go ahead and use it. But unfortunately, that is not how it works. A business name may already be registered by another company. It could be protected by a trademark. It could actually be used by a business or a person that's in a whole different industry other than personal styling. It could be protected in a country where you plan to operate but don't actually live. So imagine spending months or even years building brand awareness around your name, only to receive a legal notice that telling you that you have to stop using the name. That means you're faced with rebranding costs. You've got to change your website. You've got to create new marketing materials. You've got new social media accounts, and you lose that brand recognition that you've been working so hard to build up. And there's also those potential legal fees. If you use a name that somebody else owns and it is registered by a trademark, you can actually be sued. So it's not just an inconvenience, it can actually be devastating for your business and it can actually put an end to your business before you've even really had the opportunity to start. So I always encourage aspiring stylists to do their research before launching, okay? Because prevention is far easier and far cheaper than fixing the problem later. So you should be checking company registrations. Is the company name, has it been registered by anybody? You should be checking for trademark registrations. Check the domain availability, check social media handles, all the information, because we live in this technology era, is available at your fingertips. So there really are no excuses for, oh, I didn't realize that somebody had a registered trademark for the style clinic. You can find that information online. If you don't know how, just do a simple Google search, how to check a business trademark registration. It's usually your local government websites that have this information, but it's all available, and it is all available free of charge to you. So you definitely want to take that time to research. No matter how much you love the name that you've come up with, if someone else has the trademark, you cannot use it. If somebody has an existing business, even if it's not in personal styling or image consultant, and they have built that brand up for years, and you go ahead and you try and use it, that could face legal problems in the long run too. So you really do have to research and make sure that the name that you're going to use is legally available. And not only does this apply to the name of your business, but it can also apply to those job titles too. So I often see stylists who want to stand out from the crowd. So they think, I calling myself a personal stylist, it doesn't really make me stand out because there's so many personal stylists out there. So I don't want to go with that traditional name, that traditional job title. I want to come up with something creative and different so people will notice me and people will recognize that name too. And it really is a great strategy. It's definitely a good marketing strategy. But once again, you have to make sure that the name that you're coming up with is actually available for you to use legally. So maybe you've been thinking, oh, image architect, that sounds really good. It has this ring to it, right? It makes you stand out from everyone else who's just calling themselves a personal stylist. Well, you know what? You can't use image architect because if you've ever heard of a stylist called Law Roach, he's got that one locked up. He came up with the name. He is the original image architect and he has the trademark on it. So if you went ahead and even just referred to yourself as an image architect, you potentially could get a lawsuit from law, and you definitely don't want that. Maybe you're thinking, oh, like I'm an image strategist. That sounds really good. I'm going to use that as my title. Well, unfortunately, you can't use that one either because I am actually the owner of the trademark of image strategist. Maybe you're thinking about style coach as an option. Well, you can't use that one either because style coach is tied to a specific training and you have to have gone through that training to legally use that name. So when you are thinking about these different options and trying to come up with creative ways to make yourself stand out from the crowd, you do still have to think about the legal side of things. And you don't want to choose a name just because it sounds good, it sounds different, to then get a cease and desist or some other kind of lawsuit in the mail. So the time that you spend researching now potentially could save you an enormous amount of money and stress later on down the road. So it's definitely is worth doing. So why these things matter more than you think? Well, what's interesting is that none of the things we've discussed today are particularly glamorous. I know they're not very exciting, okay? They're not the things that people are posting about on social media. Nobody's celebrating, woohoo, I've taken out my business insurance today. Nobody gets excited about contracts. And trademark searches certainly aren't the reason that people become personal stylists, but these are the foundations that allow a business to grow safely and sustainably. The reality is that many new stylists focus almost exclusively on attracting clients, just like I did. And while that's understandable, attracting clients is only one part of building a successful business. Protecting your business is equally as important because if the foundations aren't strong, growth of your business can actually expose weaknesses faster. So the more clients you work with, the more important those contracts become. The more visible your business becomes, the more important trademark protection becomes. The more you work with people, the more important insurance becomes. These are things to think about after your success arrives and your business has grown. They're things that help protect your success when it does arrive. Looking back, there are many things that I would do differently if I was starting my styling business today, that's for sure. But these three areas stand out because they had the potential to create significant financial, legal, and professional problems for me. So if you're currently building your personal styling business, take this as your reminder to review those all important foundations. I want you to ask yourself, here's some homework for you to do this week. Ask yourself, do I have a proper client contract? Do I have the right insurance in place? Or do you actually have any insurance in place? And have I checked that my business name is legally available? If the answer to any of those questions is no, then consider making them a priority this week. May not be the most exciting tasks on your to-do list, but they could end up being some of the most important ones. So that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening once again, and I will catch you next time. If you enjoyed today's episode of the Business of Style podcast, then don't forget to hit subscribe so you'll be notified when a new episode is available. And of course, if you're looking for additional training and resources to help you in your career as a personal stylist, then be sure to visit my website, styleacademyintl.com.